Space exploration science fiction can sound technical, but the best entry points are usually simple. They ask what it feels like to leave familiar ground, face distance, and keep thinking clearly when the environment stops being forgiving. This guide focuses on wonder over war. That means less emphasis on fleets, empires, and combat. It means more emphasis on discovery, problem-solving, isolation, cooperation, and the strange emotional pressure of space. The Martian is the most direct survival and science starter. Project Hail Mary gives you a bigger puzzle with the same readable energy. Rendezvous with Rama is the classic object of wonder choice. Leviathan Wakes adds a wider solar system and more momentum without losing the exploration feeling. The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet is the warmest and most character-centered path. Aurora is the most reflective and realistic option. You do not need to read these in order. Think of them as 6 doors into the same broad question: what kind of space do you want to feel first? A good starting choice should make the genre feel open, not intimidating. The easiest way to pick from this list is to choose a lane before choosing a title. The first lane is practical exploration. It is for readers who like clear problems, visible constraints, and science that feels useful rather than decorative. The Martian and Project Hail Mary belong here. They make space feel dangerous, but also understandable, because the reading pleasure comes from watching problems get broken into smaller pieces. The second lane is cosmic mystery. Rendezvous with Rama fits that lane, because it is less interested in action than in scale, silence, and the feeling of approaching something older or larger than human expectation. The third lane is social exploration. Leviathan Wakes, The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, and Aurora all ask what happens when people build lives away from Earth. They differ in tone. One is faster and broader. One is warmer and gentler. One is more sober and ecological. That distinction matters more than publication date. Pick the lane that matches your current reading stamina, then move outward. The Martian, Andy Weir. This is near-future survival science fiction with a practical tone, a tight focus, and a clear setting on Mars. Start here if you want space exploration to feel concrete instead of abstract. The appeal is not that the book asks you to memorize a huge universe. The appeal is that almost every page gives you a problem you can understand. Air, food, power, distance, communication, and time all become readable pressures. That makes it excellent for beginners who are worried that science fiction will be too dense. It also works for readers who enjoy competence as a reading pleasure. The science is presented through use, not through long lectures. The tone is often dry and practical, which keeps the book moving even when the situation is technical. As a channel pick, this is the safest first recommendation for space exploration because it sells the core fantasy cleanly. Space is beautiful, but it is not soft. The book lets readers feel that truth without requiring them to enter a complex mythology. If someone says they want smart sci-fi, but they do not want homework, this is the first door I would open. Project Hail Mary, Andy Weir. This is accessible space problem-solving science fiction with a bigger scope, a warmer emotional range, and a mystery-driven reading rhythm. Choose this after The Martian, or choose it first if you want more wonder in the mix. It keeps the same beginner-friendly strength that made Andy Weir easy to recommend. The science usually arrives as a tool for solving a visible problem. The prose is direct, the chapters move quickly. The difference is that the emotional field is wider. The book is not only about staying alive in a hostile place, it is also about curiosity, communication, memory, and the feeling of being responsible for something larger than yourself. For many readers, this is the space exploration book that proves readable science fiction can still feel large. It is especially strong as an audiobook recommendation later, because the experience has a strong voice and a clear sense of momentum. For this video, treat it as the second practical starter. The Martian is the cleaner entry point. Project Hail Mary is the more expansive next step. Rendezvous with Rama, Arthur the 100th, Clarke. This is classic big idea science fiction, with a calm tone, a mysterious object, and a strong sense of cosmic scale. Read this when you want space exploration to feel quiet, patient, and enormous. Arthur the 100th. Clarke is one of the key names in classic science fiction, and this book shows why. It is not built like a modern page-turner. It asks the reader to pay attention to scale, design, observation, and restraint. That is exactly why it still belongs in a beginner-friendly space exploration guide. It teaches a different pleasure from The Martian or Project Hail Mary. Instead of constant problem-solving, the pleasure is careful encounter. You move through an unknown space and slowly adjust your expectations. The book is short enough to try without a major commitment, but it feels larger than its page count. The best reader for it is someone who enjoys museums, astronomy, architecture, old maps, or the feeling of standing before something that does not explain itself quickly. If modern sci-fi sometimes feels too noisy, Rama is the quieter classic door. Leviathan Wakes, James S. A. Corey. This is accessible space opera and solar system science fiction, built for readers who want scale, tension, and a lived-in future. It is the first book in the Expanse, so do not treat it as a small standalone experiment. Treat it as a gateway to a larger reading path. It belongs in this list because it keeps exploration grounded in places people work, travel, trade, and argue. Space is not just scenery here, it is infrastructure. Ships, stations, settlements, and distance shape every decision. That makes the world feel practical even when the canvas becomes large. For a beginner, the main appeal is momentum. If Rendezvous with Rama is quiet awe, Leviathan Wakes is movement through a populated future. It can be a better pick for readers who want more characters, more pressure, and a stronger sense of social consequence. The caution is commitment. The Expanse is a series, and this first book opens a large door. Start it when you want space exploration with a wider cast, a faster rhythm, and a future that feels used rather than polished. The Long Way to a Small, Angry Planet, Becky Chambers. This is warm, character-centered space fiction with a hopeful tone, a travel structure, and a focus on community. It is the first Wayfarer's book, but it is also one of the easiest series entries to try with low pressure. Choose this if you want exploration to feel less like conquest and more like contact. The book is interested in how people share space, build routines, misunderstand each other, and make room for difference. That makes it a strong recommendation for readers who think they dislike science fiction because they expect machinery to matter more than people. Here, the machinery exists, but the emotional texture is the real draw. It is also useful for the channel because it expands the meaning of space exploration. Exploration is not only landing on a planet or approaching an unknown object, it can also be traveling through cultures, languages, habits, and ways of living. The pace is gentler than many action-led science fiction books. That is not a flaw. It is the point. Start here when you want space to feel humane, conversational, and surprisingly comforting. Aurora, Kim Stanley Robinson. This is reflective hard science fiction about long-distance space settlement, written with a sober tone and a strong interest in limits. Pick this when you want exploration to feel realistic rather than purely exciting. Kim Stanley Robinson often writes science fiction that thinks carefully about ecology, systems, time, and human dependence on environments. Aurora is not the softest entry on this list, and that is why it should not be the first recommendation for everyone. It asks more patience from the reader. It is less interested in the easy romance of leaving Earth and more interested in what such a choice would demand. That makes it valuable for a space exploration guide built around wonder over war, because wonder is stronger when it includes consequences. The book is best for readers who like thoughtful pacing, scientific caution, and moral complexity, without needing constant action. If The Martian makes space feel solvable, and Rama makes it feel mysterious, Aurora makes it feel humbling. Use it when the viewer wants the most serious and reflective route. The 6 books are useful together because they do not all sell the same dream. The Martian is optimistic in a practical way. It says problems can be reduced, tested, and solved. Project Hail Mary is also optimistic, but it adds more emotional wonder and a larger sense of responsibility. Rendezvous with Rama is neither cheerful nor bleak. It is odd. It treats the unknown as something to observe with humility. Leviathan Wakes is more social and political. It shows that once humans move outward, they carry work, inequality, habit, and conflict with them. The Long Way to a Small, Angry Planet is the warmest book here because it makes distance feel survivable through community. Aurora is the most realistic and cautionary because it asks whether exploration can become a story people tell themselves too easily. This is why the video should not rank them by quality. It should rank them by reader need. If someone wants confidence, give them The Martian. If they want awe, give them Rama. If they want warmth, give them Becky Chambers. If they want hard questions, give them Aurora. For most viewers, the best first pick is The Martian. It is clean, fast, and easy to explain. If the viewer has already read that, Project Hail Mary is the natural next step because it keeps the same accessible engine while widening the emotional and conceptual scope. If the viewer wants a classic, recommend Rendezvous with Rama before heavier, older science fiction. It is short, focused, and built around wonder rather than a maze of terminology. If the viewer wants a series, recommend Leviathan Wakes, but be honest about the commitment. It is a strong entry point because the world feels active right away, yet it is still the beginning of a larger structure. If the viewer wants comfort, The Long Way to a Small, Angry Planet is the best choice. It makes science fiction feel welcoming without making it shallow. If the viewer wants realism and consequence, Aurora is the serious option, but it should usually come later. The order I would recommend for a cautious beginner is The Martian, Project Hail Mary, Rendezvous with Rama, then either Chambers or The Expanse, depending on taste, with Aurora saved for reflective readers. The first mistake is assuming that all space science fiction is military science fiction. This list is deliberately built against that assumption. The Martian is about practical survival pressure. Project Hail Mary is about scientific puzzles and wonder. Rendezvous with Rama is about encounter and scale. The Long Way to a Small, Angry Planet is about people, culture, and daily life in space. Aurora is about limits, systems, and the cost of ambition. Leviathan Wakes has more external tension than the others, but even there, the lasting appeal is the lived-in solar system and the sense that space changes society. The second mistake is starting with the most famous classic just because it is famous. A classic can be the right start, but only if the reader wants that older rhythm. The third mistake is choosing the largest series before testing the mood. That is why Leviathan Wakes should be framed as a door, not an obligation. The safest advice is simple. Start with one book that matches your current energy. Do not try to become a science fiction expert in 1 month. Let one good reading experience create the next. Here is the final no-pressure recommendation. If you want the easiest and most reliable start, read The Martian first. If you like that mix of science, danger, and problem-solving, continue with Project Hail Mary. If you want to understand the quieter classic side of space exploration, read Rendezvous with Rama next. After that, split by mood. Choose Leviathan Wakes if you want a wider solar system, a series path, and more forward momentum. Choose The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet if you want warmth, conversation, and a humane view of life among the stars. Choose Aurora if you want a more serious reflection on whether leaving home is as simple as adventure stories make it sound. This gives viewers a clear ladder without pretending there is one official order. Space exploration science fiction works best when the first book matches the feeling you want from space. Not every reader wants combat. Some want awe. Some want competence. Some want community. Some want realism. This guide exists to make that choice easier. The full list is in the description for easy reference.